The Indianapolis Colts have fallen to the Los Angeles Rams, effectively ending their undefeated season. So, what went wrong at SoFi Stadium? Who, if any one player or coach, deserves the most blame? And how do you, the fans, feel the team performed in the losing effort? Well, let's talk about it. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast, as always presented by Indianapolis Colts on SI.com. I'm Drake Wally, co-deputy editor for the site, co-host of the show, joined by Noah Gebert, analyst for the site and co-host of the show as well. Noah, this is going to be a real good one for fans because they're going to get to, you guys joining the chat, joining the show, tuning in, however you're, taking this episode in. Let your thoughts be heard because this is a very rough loss. In a lot of ways, the Colts beat themselves. But Noah, how you feeling, man? What do you think of the game? And it's one hell of a way to lose your first game of the year.
Yeah, no, it's I feel frustrated today, I guess, here on this Monday, and I know a lot of the viewers are feeling the same way. I don't think I've seen this chat pop off as much before we went live as it was before this episode. So, and we got about 20 messages in here in the chat already of people voicing some frustrations, and rightfully so. There's a lot to be frustrated about after the way that things turned out, but I'm just throughout this episode going to try to keep everything in perspective and understand that, hey, this was a really, really good team that the Colts played on Sunday. And for the most part, save for a few really boneheaded plays and some errors, it was okay, right? Like they played okay for the most part, and they were competitive for the entire game. And I even mentioned that on the preview show, but before this game started last Thursday, where I was saying I don't necessarily think the win or loss matters that much in terms of long-term season outlook for how we're looking, but more like, can you compete with a team that's a legitimate Super Bowl contender? And at least they did that.
Yeah, and it's good to to kind of walk away knowing that they really should have won the game, right? Kind of going back to that Denver game. Well, you're saying, well, they should have lost. Well, they won, and then in this one they should have won, and well, they lost. So there's just a lot of ways that these games can end up falling. But we'll go ahead and jump right into the chat here. We have so many people jumping in. Lindsay Mack, as always, hello from your favorite Welshman. Looking forward to catching up with the show on Spotify. A couple of points, and then he says that his standouts were Nick Cross, Tyler Warren, and of course DeForest Buckner. And then Patrick Ride, CFO. We're going to go ahead and jump into your super chats here. We might as well. First one here off the top rope, $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Patrick, as always. Biggest takeaways: extend Pierce and Jones immediately to avoid the market driving price up. Colts need them. Sacrifice as many of Pittman's farm animals to the gods to get Stephon Gilmore back here. Pierce, look, man. Pierce doesn't necessarily have these really, sexy skills like, this fluid route runner and this, super duper athletic, type of receiver that's just going to, overpower and outmuscle defensive backs. But he has a winning pedigree, right? Like he's an experienced leader. And then as far as Daniel Jones goes, I mean, it definitely wasn't a great game for him, but circumstances and how things unfold can always dictate what you're asking your quarterback to do. Yeah. And as far as Stephon Gilmore, man, I mean, he has made it very clear he wants to play for a contender. Well, so far this team has actually looked like they are a contender. So what do you think about that chat right there?
Yeah, so first off, Pierce, I think we're going to definitely get into a lot about Alec Pierce when we're talking about the offense, which is strange for a guy who didn't play. But obviously we have to address the elephant in the room there and talk about what the Colts were missing with Alec Pierce not on the field. Extensions usually don't see those from Chris Ballard in the middle of the season. Usually if they happen in season, it's something that's been brewing since training camp, the Quentin Nelson extension getting done in the first couple of weeks of the season when he got his extension. But you usually see them in the middle, but maybe this is a case where you make an exception here. Just because you see how your offense is performing with Pierce on the field. Daniel Jones, I think, by rule, I don't think he can be extended until the regular season is over. Being signed to just a 1-year deal as an outside free agent, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's eligible to sign an extension until the offseason actually starts for the Indianapolis Colts. So that does help the Colts avoid jumping into things a little bit too early. If you're maybe a little bit too gung-ho after 4 games of Daniel Jones, which understandably you could be after the performance I think you've seen from Daniel Jones this month. You could be convinced, I think, easily to sign an extension to him. But yeah, I think the Colts do have to hold up on that. And then, yes, Stephon Gilmore, if we obviously are going to get into that also, maybe not Stephon Gilmore specifically, but there's definitely a position of need that we need to talk about the Colts possibly addressing moving forward here on the defensive side of the ball. Stephon Gilmore, left because he wanted to be on a contender. I think it'd just be a nice bit of irony if he comes back to play for the Colts because they are a contender and they need him at that spot. So yeah, definitely. If it's not Stephon Gilmore, I think we need to start thinking about some other names and see who else the Colts might be able to bring in for a workout and kick some tires on.
Yeah, and Patrick, we'll get to your other chat here in a little bit. But yeah, it's really interesting because you were not really talking too much about any one position group until this game is over, right? Like now you're talking about receiver, now you're talking about cornerback. Potentially up front to a degree, even though I thought that the defensive, line played better. But guys, keep them coming here. We're going to get to more of these. We're going to get to more of these chats. I can already see some people making comments about the jersey behind me. I'll get to the reason that I left it up there. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and throw it in here. So there are clear overreactions, and I think that obviously we'll just address probably Noah and we'll pepper it in a little bit more later on. But first overreaction, man, comes fresh off the heels of I gotta say it might be the most undisciplined performance I've ever seen from one player, actually, with so much weight on what he was doing. And of course, it's Adonai Mitchell. Now, for those who somehow, some way, even if you didn't watch this game, you've seen something about it. It's the blunder of the week, maybe the blunder of the year. But so he gets thrown a football, absolutely torches the defensive back. He muscles the football away from him, just continues with some Madden type of highlights, spins off the defender, outruns the second tackler. It's like a 75-yard touchdown. And it's right there. It's a top 10 highlight of the year, dude. Like it was incredible. But of course, Adonai Mitchell was too excited, looks away, tries to almost like float himself over the goal line. And before he could get his spectacular celebration underway, the freaking football is already on its way out of his hands. Forces a touchback, and then you're sitting there with 7 points that just evaporates. So we'll start with that.
Yeah.
What do you think about that one individual play? Because of course we'll get to why it's what the overreaction is, because there's another one we got to talk about too.
Yeah, I mean, it hurt to watch.
It's painful.
It hurt, and I just being a little bit empathetic to probably how he's feeling in that moment also, because of all the struggles that he had his rookie year and all the narratives about him and things not going well. And he finally makes a spectacular play, right? You see that stat line, 3 receptions for 96 yards, a long of 75. You're like, man, that 75-yard play must have been great. 75 of the 76 would-be yards were really fantastic. And then that last one just popped it over the goal line. And you see he's excited just to get that first touchdown off his back, finally made a play and stepped up when he needed to. And yeah, you feel for him as much as you can put your fandom aside and just feel for a guy who's worked hard to get to this point and finally had something break his way and then immediately break back right in his face. So that's rough. And Jonathan, we had that thing with Jonathan Taylor last year in the Broncos game where he drops that at the goal line. But Jonathan Taylor gets the benefit of the doubt because he's been the guy in Indy for a while, and AD Mitchell hasn't proven really anything to that level at all. Like everything that AD Mitchell has proven has kind of backed up the fact that, we would see this from AD Mitchell. Of course, he makes that play and then throws it out of the back of the end zone. But yeah, that play, I think maybe is getting a little bit too much heat on it. And I understand
I like
why for
that.
sure.
Yeah.
It's obviously the highlight play. You throw away a 75-yard touchdown. That's going to be the thing. I think if you're throwing to any other receiver on this Colts roster, that's an incomplete pass. I have no idea how he came down with that catch. It wasn't a good throw on the sideline over there from Daniel Jones to A.D. Mitchell. He kind of catches it on his hip with one hand, spins away from a guy. And at the end of the day, it's a touchback. They get it at the 20. I mean, it didn't hurt the Colts defense that much. And it just kind of they were trading punts and turnovers beyond that point. So it didn't immediately result in points for the Rams. And probably, A.D. Mitchell, without him being on the field, it wouldn't have been a touchdown or a potential touchdown. So it just sucks that that's like where the turning point in that game was. Like that was the point where they could have gone ahead. And you were in the second half. You had set up the run game. I think you could have leaned on Jonathan Taylor for the rest of that game. You just didn't get that opportunity because that was wiped off the board. Just a huge swing. And then, you see him on the sideline. You see him. I mean, the cameras were on him very closely for the rest of that game, and him not even like joining the huddle for the next series. I think the Colts maybe missed an opportunity to just go back to A.D. Mitchell that first play right after they get the ball back on that next series and just hit him on a slant or a drag or something easy that he can catch and get his head back in the game. But I mean, they seemed reluctant to go his way after that. And I guess I can understand that as well. Just would have liked to see them get him more involved in the game plan immediately after that to try to switch the narrative that was going on in his own head, at least.
Yeah. And we'll go ahead and, I mean, Patrick's over here just absolutely funding the living crap out of the show. So let's go ahead and get to his second super chat. Plenty of talk about A.D. Mitchell, and I feel bad he's getting scorched online. I agree. Especially hearing what he had to say after being asked and the fact that he's owning up to it per Shane Steichen. I don't think there's any other thing you can do other than own up to it. But, good for him. He's a young kid still. But something tells me he's Laquan Treadwell 2.0. That would be bad. That'd be awful. Dude fumbled his audition to replace Pierce literally and figuratively. So that will go ahead and get us to the second thing. And then we'll talk about what the overreaction is here. If it couldn't get any worse, okay, Jonathan Taylor busts loose an incredible touchdown run. Yet again, another Madden-like highlight that it just further proves Jonathan Taylor is peak Jonathan Taylor right now. Yeah. And you take the lead, and it gets called back, not just because of a bad hold, but because Adonai Mitchell basically drug his defender to the ground. Like, so when it happened and it was on 10, I'll tell you, I'll just give you my honest, immediate reaction. As I said to myself, what the hell is happening? Like, how is he? Frustration was a little bit of this, but honestly, just logic. How is he an NFL football player? How are you in the professional football? How are you a professional football player when you don't know how to block and you don't know how to keep the ball next to your chest when you're crossing the end zone? Like you said, Jonathan Taylor did it, but that's an all-pro doing that, a proven guy that can lead an offense by himself from the backfield. Adonai Mitchell had possibly the worst game a football player can have. What did you make of that holding call? Because dare I say it, man, 14 points off the board. Yeah. That really puts the Colts up by 7 when this thing's over.
Yeah, and if that was on any other player on the Colts offense, you wouldn't have thought about it. I think if you see Michael Pittman take his guy to the ground, you're like, oh, Pittman's playing hard, right? So it sucks that that's on A.D. Mitchell. Obviously, like really bad technique. I think we did this on the preview show also. We were talking about what you're missing from Alec Pierce if you have to replace him with A.D. Mitchell, and that's what Alec Pierce brings you in the run game. And I maybe I'll take a little bit of responsibility for this because I said as long as we see A.D. Mitchell going out there and getting beat, but he's trying, I'm happy with it. I mean, He went out there and he tried maybe a little bit too hard. Maybe this was too much effort from A.D. Mitchell. Just the technique wasn't there, and I'm sure that some of the frustration from the fumble out of the back of the end zone earlier was still on his mind. He's trying a little bit too hard to make an impact, make a play, push his guy to the ground, get out some of that frustration, and definitely. Unnecessary. Like I don't think if he held him, it probably maybe wouldn't have been a touchdown by Jonathan Taylor. I think maybe he gets stopped for a 10, 15-yard gain, or he breaks that tackle like Jonathan Taylor does, and it's a touchdown anyway. But Yeah, that's just unfortunate that it's a swing on that guy multiple times. I think you can. I don't feel right blaming him for the hold, to be honest with you, because I do think, yeah, if that's Alec Pierce, if that's Michael Pittman, yeah, that sucks, stupid penalty, but that that's what happens kind of when you have receivers blocking in the run game as often as the Colts do. Is they're not always going to be the best blockers, especially when you're on your reserve guy. And you're doing that. I mean, yeah, you blame him for both of these a little bit, but I'm taking both of them with a little bit with a grain of salt. I think if you're looking at the long term of this season and the long term of AD Mitchell's career, I'm not necessarily worried about those 2 points. I don't think those are things that are going to be. I don't think he's going to be getting holding penalties down the field that often. I can guarantee you he's not throwing a ball out of the back of the end zone on a touchdown anytime soon in his career. So I don't think these are things that are necessarily pertinent to what's going to happen with the Colts and with AD Mitchell going forward. But man, it's tough to lose a game against such a good team that you should have won because of those 2 plays. So yeah, hopefully. I mean, the Colts didn't take that opportunity after his fumble to go back to him and get him back in the game plan. It seems like he'll probably have to earn some of that playing time back. We'll probably see a little bit more of Ashton Dulin. If Ashton Dulin had played instead of AD Mitchell the whole game, I think maybe you don't get that holding penalty on that Jonathan Taylor run, and you also don't get that fumble out of the back of the end zone, but you don't get that 75-yard catch either. So you just take a little bit less volatility and you just keep the offense on schedule, which has kind of been the name of what Shane Steichen's been trying to do with this offense, namely in that switch from Anthony Richardson to Daniel Jones, was trying to take out a little bit of that volatility of the offense and keep it just kind of steady and efficient. And I think AD Mitchell right now at this point just represents instability in this offense.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I love how you brought up, yeah, you don't, maybe with a more disciplined player like Ashton Dulin, you don't get the hold, you don't get the ball getting thrown out of the end of the end zone. But I mean, look, I'll just go ahead and cut to it. The overreaction that I have seen, and I even had a post on X. Thank you so much, Patrick. We'll get to your other stuff here, and you too, Paul. I saw your super chat. I put, please stop saying that AD Mitchell should be cut. I said that is a stupid reaction. That's all I said. And a lot of people put some comments on it. Most other people were like, that's very logical. And the reason that his jersey is still up behind me is because it is a very concerning lack of discipline, lack of awareness, lack of understanding fundamentals, and honestly just being a pro. This dude is insanely talented. He's so good. In fact, the skills and the attributes that he has, he's got more that he can hurt a defense with than Michael Pittman, than Josh Downs, than Alec Pierce. Each one of those guys has their own niche of strengths. AD Mitchell can pretty much do everything that you ask him to do. He can beat you deep. He can beat you in a foot race. He can run pretty much any route. He's very deceptive. He gets separation right away. Got good footwork, good hands, clearly.
Yeah. The yak ability on that deep ball was, I think, something a lot of people talked about pre-draft also, is that he didn't really show that a lot at Texas, but clearly that's something he can create after the catch and make some people miss. And then, yeah, everything about that play was it was AD Mitchell. I mean, everything, even up to the end of it, has been kind of summing up what AD Mitchell's career has been in Indianapolis this far.
Yeah, and just kind of put a bow on it. The overreaction is that he should be cut. That is hilarious. If the Colts were to cut him, he would be picked up within the week. Teams would take a shot on this kid immediately, and expect. I wouldn't be surprised, Noah, and I kind of want to hear your position on this real quick. I think you might see him, unless he really shows the Colts something. I personally, if I was Shane Steichen, I know that they were like, we believe in him. His teammates support him. I would greatly reduce his snap count against the Raiders. And in this case, I would lean on Ashton Dulin, just because you can't have that happen a second time. Kid needs to learn a lesson too.
Yeah. I think the second part of it is more why I would lean towards that. I think initially, if you propose that to me, I'd be like, why sit him? He's going to be out there and making plays. I don't expect those mistakes to happen again. But also, this has been kind of the change or a shift in this culture here with the Colts, is that they're holding everybody accountable. You can't preach that and then have somebody go out there and make two of those just boneheaded plays that cost points on the board directly. Like you can't have that and then not hold them accountable if you're preaching accountability for everybody on the roster. So yeah, it does make sense, even though I don't necessarily think any of those things are going to be things that come back to haunt the Colts. I don't think that's going to be a staple in what happens with AD Mitchell. I think discipline maybe just in general is kind of an issue in terms of how he plays the game, but I don't think that would be something that would affect them long term. But yeah, if you're preaching accountability on both sides of the ball every play, I mean, it's the same reason that you bench other people and you like, if you don't make a move there, then how do you justify moving on from somebody else who does something similar if you need to make the move there? So yeah, I think it's a culture thing that you go with a guy like Ashton Doolin, who's pretty much done everything you asked him and done it right. So yeah, I expect over the next few weeks, we'll see a little bit more of Ashton Doolin than AD Mitchell. We'll see what happens with Pierce if he's back for this week. And maybe that becomes pretty much a non-factor if you've got Alec Pierce in the lineup a little bit more, because previously, I mean, it was Ashton Doolin and AD Mitchell kind of splitting snaps pretty equally behind Alec Pierce in the lineup. So yeah, we'll see what it looks like going forward. I do expect to see some more of Ashton Doolin though.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead and get to the other two super chats here, and there is one more overreaction that I have kind of nowhere near as much as AD Mitchell stuff, which is fair. So Daniel Jones, okay, had played turnover-free football, looked like a top 5 quarterback, came down to earth in a big way in this game. Just in a nutshell, and we'll get into this later with the offensive tab, but this one's specifically for Jones. What did you think of his performance? Because I think that his performance might be a little bit marred by maybe not a tasteful box score.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think he played well. I liked watching Daniel Jones. I thought he operated the offense pretty efficiently. Just in times in the past, I mean, I guess we're just kind of rolling into the entire offense, and that's okay, because we're already 22 minutes and haven't got into that first offensive segment yet. So yeah, we'll just roll into that. And kind of how I saw Jones's overall game is like the first 3 weeks, you were super efficient on offense and maintaining a good down and distance and staying on schedule and avoiding negative plays. And this is really the first week that you didn't do that. Which explains some of the drop off just in terms of points. 20 points seems pretty low. If you're going in there and you say, hey, 20 points on the offensive side of the ball, you're probably thinking, hey, that's not a very good game offensively. And I think it actually was a pretty good game offensively. I mean, if you're taking away those 2 AD Mitchell boneheaded plays, then you're talking, what was that, 34 points on the offensive side of the ball. So, and you're feeling a lot better about that. There are a couple things. I mean, those screen passes, they were either dirted or blown up pretty much every time they attempted a screen pass, put them behind the chains when they did that. Some procedural penalties at the beginning, pre-snap, some offensive pass interference when they were down there threatening to score on some of those drives, kind of put them in situations where those had to be settled for field goal drives instead of touchdown drives. So, I mean, it's just a lot of stuff that just kind of added up, and these self-inflicted wounds or these mistakes that put them behind schedule and made it a lot harder to operate. And you don't have your guy out there in Alec Pierce. I think we even have a super chat in there from Patrick about the deep ball that he threw on that first series to AD Mitchell. That's also a limitation that you're seeing from Daniel Jones, and we've seen these first 3 weeks, and that's kind of been something that has, at least to this point, not affected the Colts too much. You have a guy, when you're taking those deep shots, and Daniel Jones doesn't have the super strong arm to lead a guy 40, 50 yards down the field, and it's a little bit behind him or whatever. You have a guy in Alec Pierce who's going to go up there and get that, and that ultimately caused a concussion for Alec Pierce, but he's a guy that goes up there, stops, and goes straight up and high points the ball and tries to fight for it. That's something you definitely did not see from AD Mitchell. And as someone as big as AD Mitchell with the lanky frame that he has, he should be able to go up there and high point and at least contest that. So maybe that's just a little bit of, hey, Daniel Jones is used to placing those balls, like just not trying to go too far over their head and lead them up and just letting the guy make a play. And he didn't have the right guy making the play in that situation. It came back to bite him. I didn't think it was a good throw. Obviously, if you're behind him, you never want to throw it behind him, even if it is Alec Pierce there that's likely to bail you out. So, I mean, yeah, I don't like that one. I don't like the very next drive, the in-breaking route. He tried to throw to, I think, Michael Pittman, and Cam Kinchins, the safety, just jumps that and gets both hands on it. Doesn't come away with the pick there. That had me a little bit worried at the start of the game, because those are two back-to-back interceptions that, or could be interceptions, and I was worried that was going to spiral a little bit. But after that, he kind of kept it together, right? He was making some plays, and he was keeping the offense as on schedule as it could be, despite the penalties, and moving the ball. They had that touchdown drive, despite constant pressure from the Rams defensive line, and we'll definitely get into that a little bit more. But overall, I think he operated pretty well. That touchdown, or that interception on the last drive, when they have a minute left, and you have to push the ball downfield. I don't like the throw, but I understand why you make it in that moment. Just hoping that you have a guy go up and make a play for you. It just didn't happen there. So yeah, the box score, I think, looks a lot worse than the actual performance, and the performance that we saw from Daniel Jones. I mean, if this is as bad as it gets for Daniel Jones, I think you're looking pretty moving on throughout the season, and you're going to get more of what we saw from the first 3 weeks, when you're not facing as dominant of a threat as this Rams defensive line ended up being.
Yeah, and kind of like what Patrick said, is it's a different animal. A.D. Mitchell is going to get open quicker than Alec Pierce. He's going to be faster in most, outside of maybe a dead sprint, than Alec Pierce. There's ways that Adonai Mitchell's a better weapon, but there is not. I don't even know if there is a single receiver in the NFL that is going to provide you with such a catch radius down the field at the highest point like that than Alec Pierce. So they really missed him yesterday, and they sure as hell missed him as a blocker. Now, the overreaction here is, I've seen a little bit of it anyway, is Daniel Jones. He's that New York Giants Daniel Jones.
He's a pumpkin again.
Yeah, he's a pumpkin again. The Daniel Jones that I knew and watched in New York, it's not even that pick that I think would have sent him into a spiral. It's the near jumped interception, like you said. You would have seen another one. You would have seen a sack. You would have seen him try to bail too quickly and just take sack after sack. He would have out bootlegged his own blockers, or he wouldn't have, if the pocket was moving, he wouldn't have moved. There's just so many things that you used to see Daniel Jones do, where when it would rain, it would pour, and then the umbrella would break, and then he'd fall into a puddle, or literally fall in the open field with no one around. I mean, Daniel Jones with the Giants was hilarious. I mean, he was hilarious to watch. He was so unbelievably misfit with that offense. I was impressed, honestly, with how he responded to the adversity.
Yeah.
He led the offense. He still got a pass to Michael Pittman for the touchdown. He was accurate. I mean, on the day, the dude was let me see it here, 24 for 33. I mean, he only had 9 incompletions. His average per attempt was 7.9. He only got sacked twice. I mean, there was one play where he was staring death right in the face, and he delivered a very good read to Tyler Warren.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see improvements, and you could still see that he looks good, man. People that, are even remotely thinking that this was Daniel Jones's fall from grace, you're crazy. He looked better in that 2 interception performance, losing, than he has sometimes with the Giants in his career when they would win. So, I mean, I'm just saying, I think that this was actually a silver lining, a good game for Daniel Jones by all regards. So, you're going to say something? My bad.
Yeah. And just, again, I mean, we'll definitely hit on it more once we get to this offensive side, but just in the face of pressure and how often he was pressured, the Colts offensive line did not have a good game. They were getting beat up in the second half. I mean, that play where Jared Verse gets a 5-yard running head start and bowls over Tanner Bortolini. I mean, that's just, they knew the snap count when they're running the silent snap count there at the away game. So, I mean, yeah, it's something operationally they have to clean up. I mean, it's hard to block them when they don't know the snap count, and then they know the snap count, and it's just dealing with that. It's coming away with 2 sacks, or only 2 sacks, despite all that pressure, and coming away with the, what is that, above 70% completion percentage in the face of all that pressure. Yeah, I think proud of how Daniel Jones kind of handled that and kept things afloat when it really could have all gone awry because of that.
Yeah, and we're going to go ahead and jump into, let me see here. Yeah, so Paul Wilson, you also had yourself a super chat. Thank you so much for the donation there, my friend. Very much, yes. The good news is it was a road loss against a quality team that was an NFC opponent. I would dare say this is a damn good football team that they pretty much beat. I mean, you got a future Hall of Fame quarterback. You've got, Kyron Williams, who is still the most overlooked running back in the NFL. And don't forget the dude's apparently an offensive tackle too.
Yeah.
Out there putting Leatu Latu on his ass. Like, I mean, you talk about the best blocking back in the NFL. It's probably Kyron Williams. And then you've got Puka Nacua. And then you've got Devontae Adams. And you've just got an absolute bevy of monsters on, with the stop troops. I thought that they basically beat a great team. But yes, at least Noah, it was an NFC opponent and it wasn't somebody in your division or in your conference or, God forbid, in your division.
Yeah, and of the two really quality teams that you've faced this year in the Broncos and the Rams, I think the Rams are a step above.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're going to take the loss on one of them, I definitely want to lose to the Rams. That's not a team you're going to be fighting for tiebreakers for a wild card race later on in the season. It's just and like you mentioned there, in a road loss, and it's a close game. That's just everything. It just makes it hurt a little bit more that you lost when you could have won because of how high the talent level was that you were facing. It really could have shown, I think, something if you came away 4-0 and beating this Rams team here. But I think you can, if it swung a different way, or if you lost a different way, I think you could stomach this loss. It's just the way that they lost, I think, is what's going to be hardest to handle for Colts fans.
Yeah. I mean, knowing that you won, knowing that you did everything right, and that you basically left 14 points on the field because of gaffes and just mental blunders it stings. So, but yeah, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into the most surprising performers. So, right out of the gate, man, I honestly, this is going to sound ridiculous. Now, this is one of mine. I'll pass it to you, and then I've got another one. We'll just kind of bounce these back and forth. I know he had a disgusting game. I thought A.D. Mitchell actually he kind of surprised me, honestly. I understand he had the worst game of his career, probably that he will ever have. He could become an all-pro. There will never be a game as bad as this one for him. He showed explosion. He showed playmaking ability. He showed an ability yet again to absolutely make defensive backs one-on-one look stupid. Mm-hmm. I mean, he is oh my God, he's so talented, man. The kid can actually do literally everything you need from a weapon that catches passes.
Yeah.
So I was surprised in the positive sense, I guess.
I think you could be surprised in more than one way by A.D. Mitchell's performance too.
Yeah, I mean, you could be. I mean, I'm also surprised at the ineptitude that that he had crossing the goal line and not crossing it. But I was impressed. I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that he stepped up as a weapon, and made one of the toughest catches I've ever seen. So that's one. I've got another one, but let's go ahead and hear one of yours.
Yeah, I'm probably taking yours here because I know you like to talk about it, but I'm going to go with Leatu Latu here as my most surprising performer there on the defensive side of the ball, and just I think I've said before, he has some of those pressures there. The sacks just aren't coming. He's been playing relatively well. It's just that when you're relying on him as much as you are, if you're the Colts and no other pass rushers are really stepping up, then it looks a little bit worse if he's not getting those sack numbers, and it just seems like a little bit more of a disappointment. But I mean, he continued to play well, and those numbers continued to be there. I think it was 9 total pressures just from Latu.
He was an animal.
This game, 7 hurries, a hit, a sack, all that was coming together and really keeping Matt Stafford contained in the pocket. I think 11 of the 12 spots on defense seemed to play pretty well. I know the run defense was a little bit rough, but yeah, just him stepping up there in the pass rush and he looking like that guy. Just something that you need to continue to see consistency on. I think those numbers are still going to come just in terms of total pressures that he's getting, and you want to see more of those convert into sacks also. But yeah, just him kind of bouncing back from, or maybe not even bouncing back, just some of those things falling his way. And being in the right spot and getting some of those plays made because of the effort that he was giving. And yeah, just that very first series of the game, just him giving that hit on Matthew Stafford that affected that deep ball throw that probably would have been accurate to Puka Nacua down the field. Just good to see him affecting the game in ways that the Colts sorely needed a pass rusher to step up and do.
Yeah, and I like that you brought up Laiatu Latu. The Colts defensive front, 32 pressures. The Colts defense had 32 pressures. That is outrageous.
Yeah.
I mean, they were in Matt Stafford's, they were in his comfort zone constantly. So the fact that it only turned into 4 sacks is actually kind of shocking. But yeah, I like that one. Latu probably, in fact, no, he did have his best career game. Throw away that game with the interception, whatever. Okay. As far as a pure pass rusher, defensive edge, why you drafted this man, look no further than this game. If he can start doing this kind of stuff on a weekly basis, he's going to make plays. I mean, it's just going to be a matter of time before you get a 2-3 sack game. Seriously. I mean, 9 pressures from one dude. That's very good. In fact, Jared Verse had 13 pressures coming into this game in 3 games.
Yeah.
Latu almost beat that by himself in 1 game. So very impressive. I'm going to go with Adetomo Adebawore. Went out there, had his best game of his career. You saw the athleticism. He provided 3 pressures. He got himself a sack by PFF standards on ESPN. It's 0.5 regardless. Yeah. He looked every bit of the athletic freak that they drafted in the 4th round in 2023. If they can get that type of athleticism in the interior, you can, because don't forget, I mean, he runs under a 4.5 second 40-yard dash. You talk about explosive. This dude is a hand grenade. So what were your thoughts on Adetomo's performance? I mean, we talk about Buckner, Stewart, and then we talked about, Neville Gallimore, stuff like that. We were even talking more about 6th round pick Tim Smith than we were Adetomo Adebawore, and here he is looking like a premier rotational piece in the Colts defensive front.
Yeah, and it's not very often you see a defensive tackle running down there on kick coverage like he does, running that 4-5, and
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's a freak. And we definitely talked about him coming into training camp and kind of questioning if he would fit Lou Anarumo's scheme and if they would want to maybe be a trade candidate or a surprise cut candidate because maybe he just didn't fit the system. But we also talked about maybe he could be a really serious contributor as a pass rusher up the middle, and they went that direction this week. They chose to make Eric Johnson inactive, that backup nose tackle, in favor of Adetomo Adebawore and Neville Gallimore as those 2 depth pieces there on the interior. Both guys that you rely on to get pass rush more than you rely on to stop the run. So that was a conscious decision that the Colts made there, and it paid off in terms of the effect that Adebawore was able to have on the quarterback in terms of his pass rushes. Yeah, just getting the hits, just showing you're not going to ever really compare like 3 total pressures, maybe not as much as Latu, but he did rush the passer half the time or half as many snaps. He had 16 pass rush snaps to Latu's 32-ish. So about half the time and still came up with 3 pressures. And it's harder to create pressure on the interior just in terms of getting hurries, getting hits, just doesn't come as often for defensive tackles. So good to see him affecting and them finding a way. Hopefully he can continue to do that in weeks coming up. And then you have 2 really consistent forces there on the interior. DeForest Buckner's always going to be a guy who's providing pressure for you up the middle. If you can pair that with another rotational guy there in Adebawore, so you always have a threat pretty much on every down up the middle as a pass rusher, then that's going to really serve the Colts well going forward.
Yeah. So give us one more surprise performer for on your side of things, and then we're going to kind of go in a little bit more on the offense and the defense here.
Yeah, okay. I don't know who else is surprising. I think Ebukam also played a good game. It's weird that we're talking about all these pass rushers, right? When we just had these 3 weeks where what's the problem on the Colts defense? It's the pass rush. And then they come out this week and they really play really well. Ebukam, what was that? 5 total pressures for Ebukam also on 26 pass rush snaps. So yeah, he's had a really good win rate coming in as a rotational guy. We've talked about that also. Yeah, I mean, when you don't have the other supplementary pieces, it puts a lot of pressure on Latu. But this game, Latu had a good game, and he had all those supplementary pieces also really contributing to this pass rush. I think that helps free things up for a guy who might be a little bit more focused on or keyed on like Latu if you have some other guys who are able to provide a threat. So yeah, really good to see Ebukam come back there. I mean, we've had 2 games now where he's played really well as a pass rusher, and then 2 games where he's just been kind of wiped off and just kind of erased off the board and really been a non-factor. So you want to see a little bit more consistency from him. Maybe that's something you should have expected, a 30-year-old coming off that Achilles injury. Maybe he wasn't always going to be 100% full speed and really affecting the pass rusher like he was in that 2023 season. But we've definitely seen flashes of him being able to return to that level of play, at least for stints. I just want to see that be a little bit more consistent. And then if you have that and the way Latu's playing and you combine those 2 things together, maybe we're not talking about how big of an issue the Colts pass rush is when we get to November, December.
Yeah. And I'll just, go ahead and say, honestly, Ebukam and Latu have impressed me more than Kwity Paye.
Yeah.
It's only 4 games in, man, but boy, Kwity Paye is invisible to me. At least right now. At least he has been in these first 4 games. So we're going to go ahead and we can still cover both of these very well because this game has so much going on. The offense can't survive the mistakes. Now, obviously, we already went in on A.D. Mitchell's fumble. We went in on A.D. Mitchell's holding call. We talked about how, Daniel Jones, he did throw 2 interceptions. I will go back to a comment Patrick made before where I don't care if it's prime Peyton Manning or the worst possible stretch of Jamarcus Russell's NFL career. Anytime you throw a quarterback out there and say, okay, go win us the game.
Yeah.
That is freaking hard. I don't care if it's Peyton. I don't care if it's Andrew Luck. That is so hard, which makes it all the more impressive when guys like Manning would just do it no problem. And then you would see other fantastic quarterbacks almost never be able to do it. Okay. There's something to be said about guys like Matt Stafford, who just did it again yesterday. But those quarterbacks fail a lot, right, in those situations. And if they don't have all those things happen, especially that blocking penalty on A.D. Mitchell, Jones doesn't have to necessarily go out there. Also, go look at the play call in that second interception. Not really sure what the hell Shane Steichen is thinking, but he sent 4 verticals down the field.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Taylor, while he was open, Jones was looking for one of his 4 receivers, by the way, that were all running 4 verts, just straight down the field. So there was a lot going on that wasn't just Daniel Jones's fault, especially on that second pick.
Yeah, 4 verts is just a cheesy Madden play call. It works sometimes if you're facing cover 3, but the Rams had to be prepared for all those vertical routes. Watching that playback, you're not going to take the dump off to Jonathan.
There's like a minute and a half left.
Maybe you should have, but yeah, you're really pushing it, and I don't blame Daniel Jones for throwing it up and trying to have Michael Pittman be that contested catch guy who'd go up and make a play for you. That's not a terrible shot to take if you're in desperation mode and taking it and having to take a shot. I just don't think they needed to be in desperation mode that early. So we'll chalk that one up to Shane Steichen as well as Daniel Jones. I'm not putting all of that on there on Daniel Jones, but yeah, it's not the play I would have wanted and not the throw that I would have liked to see him make just in terms of accuracy and even the decision in general. But overall a pretty good performance. I think the biggest point that we need to talk about that we haven't really gotten to is the absence of Matt Gonsalves. And how that really affected the offensive line. And I don't know, maybe it was bad on pretty much 4 of the 5 spots. Ryman, I think, had a pretty good game, but even he got really pushed back and blown up by Jared Verse. The strip sack was on Ryman. Jared Verse blew up a run play, but he's also he's guessing the silent snap count. He's timing all these plays. So that had something to do with it. Operationally, that had something to do with it. Matt Gonsalves not being on the field definitely had something to do with it. But even if he was on there, I'm not sure how you defend a defensive line that's good, that is that good, that knows when the ball is going to be snapped on every play. So, just really, really rough game from Dalton Tucker there at guard, filling in for Matt Gonsalves. Made a really rough game, even rougher for Tanner Bortolini, having Dalton Tucker beside you. Braden Smith, I think, outside on an island against Byron Young, and Jared Verse really had his first negative game of the season. where I think he's been performing pretty much above expectations for the first 3 weeks. I think this was the first rough game that we saw from Braden Smith. Quentin Nelson definitely had some missed assignments. I mean, it's just hard to play against a defensive line that's that talented, and you have that level of disadvantage in terms of them being able to time up that snap count. So, yeah, I think that just makes Daniel Jones' game a little bit more impressive and adds a little bit of context to the box score that you see there.
Dalton Tucker allowed 5 pressures. Quentin Nelson allowed 3. Braden Smith allowed 5. Tanner Bortolini allowed 2. Bernard Ryman allowed 3. What I am going to state here are the pass blocking grades from lowest to highest. And
start highest.
Start high. That's actually good. Funnier. That's actually good. 0 is just the depths of hell. 100 is a perfect score. Basically, think of it as a grade school, great grading system. 60, 70, okay, you're getting up there. 80, respectable. 90 is torrid. Yeah. Anything underneath 50, though, you got to kind of look at it like, all right, that's not good. And then the lower you go, it's just abysmal. So pass blocking grade we'll use all 5 offensive linemen, 40 pass blocking snaps. Here we go. Bernard Ryman was top with 68.4. That's respectable. And it just absolutely falls off the highest cliff. So Tanner Bortolini had a 43.8 pass blocking grade. Braden Smith's was 41.6. Quentin Nelson was 29.1. To give you an idea, that's kind of where Xavier Howard's defensive coverage grade has been hovering. So that's really bad. Dalton Tucker, ladies and gentlemen, 7.9, which by PFF standards translates to you're not there. You're not there. It's 4 on 5. I mean, Dalton Tucker had he had no chance, right, Noah? He just had absolutely no shot in hell. I mean, you're asking the guy to go in there and fill in for Matt Gonsalves, who, by the way, is playing great. And you're asking him to stop guys like Poona Ford, Braden Fisk, Jared Verse if he's blitzing through the interior. Look, they can't survive the mistakes, right? But like you said, that offensive line had, without question, its worst performance of the year.
Yeah, and this is maybe a situation if you're expecting Matt Gonsalves to miss any more time. I don't know how confident you feel about Dalton Tucker. Maybe you roll the dice again on Danny Pinter at guard, see how he can hold up. I can't imagine.
Josh Sills.
Yeah, Josh Sills got called up from the practice squad to be active for the game this week. Didn't end up getting in the game, but maybe that's something you revisit in the upcoming weeks if Gonsalves continues to miss any more time. Yeah, I think it was bad enough to the point that you have those conversations for sure about if he's even good enough to fill in for any starting time, or he's just a guy that you need to keep continuing to develop. I still think he has the tools. That's the Colts obviously think he has the tools. That's why they signed him as an undrafted free agent. He made the roster, that he got some playing time, just wasn't ready in year 1. Just doesn't seem like he's ready here in year 2 either. So I think he needs a little bit more time brewing and getting that technique down, building up some strength in there on the interior before you're really ready to see him in the starting lineup.
Yeah. So now we're just going to go ahead and jump over to this one. This one this one will take up the rest of the show.
Yeah.
So up front, the Colts uncharacteristically, even though it was an offensive line that by all accounts is not even that great, the Colts still took care of business, right? They still handled their own up front. But let's go ahead and just go up a level here. The linebackers, man, it's not that they're bad per se, but, I understand that run defense starts up front. It really does. And, I mean, if you go back and you look at the performances, and if you look at the run defense grades from some of the Colts, I mean, the best one was Charvarius Ward, right? So they weren't out there making stops up front, but it just seems like there is not good run support from the linebacking core.
Yeah.
It just seemed like when Kyron Williams would get one step over the defensive trench, it just seemed like there was at least a 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 yard gain ahead. Yeah. And I mean, he only ran the ball 13 times, but it was for 77 yards for 5.9 a carry with a long of only 11, dude. So like that means he was just consistently, he never broke away a big run. In fact, I think that 11-yard one was where he made Cam Bynum look stupid. Like, so tell me a little bit about that, because if they're going to allow an offensive line that's not known for being top tier to do that to them running the ball, I mean, I would dare say if I'm even a pass heavy team, if I'm the Chiefs, right, and I go and I have Pat Mahomes as my quarterback, I would say you might not even need to throw as much because we should just run the ball on the Colts.
Yeah. And you're not getting good run defense from your defensive ends at all this entire season, especially not this week. Samson Ebukam, who we just praised as contributing in the pass rush department, has consistently been rough against the run this season. Kwity Paye, who's throughout his career usually been solid against the run, was getting blown off the ball this week. I think even DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart, you want to say all the good things about them, because who knows where your defense would be without them, but they didn't perform very well up front. So I think, we can obviously point to the linebackers because I think they've struggled in run defense all year. And I think that was true also this week, but up front wasn't good enough this week either. Just in terms of run defense, I think you want a little bit more stoutness, especially, you made that conscious decision to make Eric Johnson a healthy scratch and go with Adetomiwa Adebawore and Neville Gallimore as your interior depth. And both of them kind of struggle in the run game anyway, and that was true also today. So you didn't get it from the starting defensive lineman. You didn't get it from your rotational guys in terms of support in the run game. You didn't get it from Zaire Franklin or Joe Bacci, who are the two linebackers that were really playing on most of those rundowns. I know Austin Ajaki took quite a bit of snaps, but I think he was only in on a few running plays. He was mostly in there in obvious passing situations. So Joe Bacci, Zaire Franklin, I think maybe with a little bit more support up front could have done a little bit better in terms of run defense. But I think this was just a case where it started up front this week, and up front it wasn't good enough, and that filtered down to the linebackers.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, whether it's up front, whether it's the second level, if you can't defend the run, you are going to have so many games where you're frustrated defensively, man, because, if God forbid, if the team has a good quarterback and at least competent weapons and you're running the ball like that, I mean, think about that. They have Devontae Adams, they have Puka Nacua, and they have Matt Stafford, and they're able to average 6 yards a carry.
Yeah.
That's just not, especially with the way Stafford can run the play action. I mean, I understand there was that blown play to Tutu Atwell, which we have to get to that. But Matt Stafford cooked. He did a really good job despite getting pressured a bunch. So before we even dive into the big story here, Nick Cross did have a miscommunication, right? Where Devontae Adams caught a touchdown right before the half. Yeah. But this man had 14 tackles and was just everywhere. What an absolute baller. I know that he had that gaff, but man, no, Nick Cross is a hell of a defensive asset, and I think that the way he flew to the ball yesterday was great. But since we're kind of running down on time and we got a big one to get to here, two things to wind out this show, and we'll start with this one. The Tutu Atwell 88-yard touchdown. Yeah. There was a reason that it was so unbelievably open. And it's more than anyone else, it's on Lou Anarumo. That's the guy you got to put the blame on the most, because like a high school football team that hasn't won a game in 6 years, they had 10 guys on the field. Yeah. I don't understand how that happens when you are paying these guys and your coaching staff the incredible amounts of money that you're paying them. Like I thought that could go down as the worst gaffe of the whole game because the coaches allowed that to happen. Yeah.
And I think there's multiple levels there. 10 men on the field, that's inexcusable, and you're not going to win many defensive matchups doing that. If you had an 11th man on the field, I'm not sure how much it would have mattered, because Mekhi Blackman did clip his heels together and fall on that when Tutu Atwell jabbed in and then went outside. So I think he maybe would have been open regardless, but maybe you would have had somebody back there that could have caught up in a pursuit angle and stopped that from being a touchdown. Who knows what the situation would have been there, but yeah, you put yourself in a situation where you can't win anyway. And then you have Mekhi Blackman, who didn't have the best game, but didn't have as bad of a game as someone else that we need to talk about. But that really yeah, just a fault in technique, getting your feet a little bit too close together when you're trying to make that turn and pivot and pivot and run. He, yeah, ate the dust there and watched Tutu Atwell go for 88 yards on the one catch he had that game. So yeah, that's honestly when he got to about midfield, I was like, man, I hope they don't catch him and they let him score so the Colts at least have another shot at it, because I didn't feel very confident in the Colts defense at that point to prevent a touchdown or prevent a field goal to put them up. So I mean, yeah, obviously terrible scenario there where you have 10 guys on the field and they score that early. I'm glad that it was that early in that drive, so the offense got a chance, just didn't really get anything on offense that next drive either.
Yeah, so that leads us to former 4-time Pro Bowler and 2-time, one first team, one second team All Pro, 2-time NFL leader in interceptions, Xavier Howard. He's done. He's done as a starter. He's not a starter. You've been cooked by everybody from Davante Adams to Puka Nacua to Marvin Mims. I mean, tell me a little bit about your thoughts on Xavier Howard. I think that while Puka Nacua is he's the best receiver in the NFL. He might be the best receiver I've seen in recent years. 13 catches on 15 targets for 170 receiving yards. He basically was the offense through the air, and he had a touchdown. But I mean, tell me a little bit about Xavier Howard here.
Yeah, it had me Googling Jalen Jones for any injury updates. That's what I was just spending a lot of my morning doing this morning, was trying to figure out. Jalen Jones was put on IR after the season opener, so I think he has to miss 4 games. So he still has at least next week before he can be eligible to return. Who knows if he's going to be healthy enough for that. So very much, I think, time to explore the open market and see what else is out there. But also to the point where, I mean, this isn't the first game that we've seen Xavier Howard be an issue. I don't think it should have really gotten to this point. I don't think he should have gotten the amount of playing time to where he was able to be targeted 10 times in this game. And it seemed like that's what they were doing as much as possible. They were using Puka Nacua in motion as many chances as they could get to get that matchup with him against Xavier Howard. I have the numbers here in front of me. Puka Nacua was targeted against Xavier Howard 6 times. Allowed 5 receptions there for 71 yards and a touchdown against Puka Nacua. Targeted 3 times against Davante Adams, gave up 2 catches for 41 yards. So, I mean, they were finding just his side of the field, avoiding Charvarius Ward for the most part, and finding one area that they could pick on. And that's because of the bad tape that he put on in the previous weeks, right? So he made himself a target on the back, and I feel like he should have known that, because he had interviews where he addressed his poor level of play. He should have known he was going to be the target there. I mean, maybe he did know he was going to be the target there, but when you're a 32-year-old corner coming off an injury and a year off of football, if you're put in a situation where you get a half a step on you, he's not going to catch up. Like the deep ball to Puka Nacua, Puka got a half step. That was, I guess, I mean, it was pretty good coverage, I guess, on that particular play from Xavier Howard, but you're going to get thrown at if you're Xavier Howard and you've put out what you're gonna put out. So if someone's got half a step, normally that's good enough coverage. Against Puka Nacua, it wasn't good enough. And just a whole bunch of situations, very lazy play from Davante, or not when he was covering Davante Adams on an out route, just didn't put up any effort and allowed Davante Adams to get a catch for a first down. Just a situation where it seems very obvious that that's the glaring weakness there on the Colts defense. And I'm personally a little bit worried that the Colts are not going to make the move that they need to move on. There's no upside to having Xavier Howard on the field for you at this point. I don't think there's any untapped potential or any rust that he needs to knock off. I think if there was rust to knock off, the rust would be gone by now. Yep. Right now, we're just seeing a player who's a shell of what he's been in the past and is not able to keep up athletically or really putting in the effort to make up for what he's missing athletically at this point.
Yeah, and this is something else that I do want to point out is Lou Anarumo, this was before he was even hired by the Colts. Lou Anarumo is one of my favorite defensive coordinators. I think that he is incredibly gifted. I think that his scheme is wild. I think it's hard to game plan for. But it was really funny. They were like, well, I mean, Xavier Howard, he knows Lou Anarumo's scheme from when Lou Anarumo was the defensive coordinator in Miami. Xavier Howard was not even, I mean, he started with the Dolphins in 2016. That was his first season. Lou Anarumo was the Dolphins defensive coordinator in 2015. So fast track 10 years later, and some adjustments from Anarumo and some serious regression from Xavier Howard. Not really that great of a marriage, and if you look at Howard's numbers, through 211 snaps, he has an overall defensive grade of 36.1. Previous to that, his lowest was 55.1, which was 2023, before he took a year off. So there is just nothing left. It's hard to say that about a guy who's trying to make money for his family or for his livelihood, but it is what it is. And look, the Colts either need to very seriously consider giving Jonathan Edwards a shot, or maybe they don't think that he's as good as Xavier Howard. I think that I could go out there and pose a bigger threat, being 5'7" and as wide as mayonnaise, than Xavier Howard right now. I mean, he's running for his life. And he's trying to catch up to these guys looking like he just looks like an old man trying to catch up to young dudes. And it's either that or you need to get somebody on the open market. I personally think that, I know that the Colts don't have an exorbitant amount of cap space, but man, it's the cliche answer, but I really think they need to try and see what Stephon Gilmore would say to an offer. Yeah. I mean, he's 35, but he just had 15 starts last year and an interception, and he played the Colts, and he played with Cam Bynum with the Vikings last year.
The Colts obviously aren't shy to giving some of these aging corners a shot. Just brought in Mike Hilton. Xavier Howard's the guy they brought in.
And love him.
They've got everybody that they're playing is really pushing 30 and over. So, I mean, they've got Jonathan Edwards, Mekhi Blackmon. If you're too worried about turning to them, which at this point I don't see the downside to turning to them, then give a veteran like Gilmore a call, see what else is out there. But I do think they have two guys in Mekhi Blackmon and Jonathan Edwards on the roster that at least try it. Right? It's not going to be worse than what you've been seeing. You've got Mike Hilton, maybe him having a little bit more time with this team, a little bit more under his belt. You feel a little bit more comfortable if Kenny Moore is going to miss however much time. You feel comfortable with him full-time operating in the slot, because I thought Mike Hilton had a pretty good game. Wasn't really a liability in coverage, really caused that fumble in the backfield on that nickel blitz that Lou Anarumo dialed up for him. So, yeah, I mean, if you're comfortable playing Mike Hilton in the slot full-time, that allows you to put Mekhi Blackmon on the outside opposite Charvarius Ward full-time. If you don't really want to do that or lean on Mike Hilton that much or lean on Mekhi Blackmon that much, sprinkle in some Jonathan Edwards. I think he got like 3 snaps on defense. One of them was a pretty key pass breakup. I mean, he was playing in the slot, not really the position you would envision him playing, but I mean, give him a shot. He's not going to struggle with the athleticism of these opposing receivers as much as Xavier Howard is. His technique might not be all the way there, but you can't keep giving Xavier Howard a try. There's no upside to this point, and I feel like the experiment should be pretty clear that it's over because this isn't the first game that you've seen those issues. So we'll see if Lou Anarumo, famously stubborn from moving on from these veteran guys, and we'll see if just give him another veteran. If you're Chris Ballard, just go out and sign somebody so he has an option he feels good about if he doesn't want to turn to these young guys. But either way, I feel like you got to make the shift there.
Yeah, and remember, you will take losing to technique and having the athleticism over maybe having the technique and not being able to keep up with a dude who's fast, or that's just purely better. So, but guys, that is our show. Thank you so much for hanging in there in the pocket with us. Patrick Rye, Paul Wilson, you guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. But don't forget to like the Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow Indianapolis Colts on SI for all of our written work. And on X, we are at Colts_SI. Subscribe to the Horseshoe Huddle on YouTube. Click the bell to turn on all the notifications. If you want to listen, Noah's got us hooked up on Apple, on Spotify, wherever else you listen to podcasts. Guys, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And luckily in the NFL, things move very quickly. After Monday Night Football, here in a little bit, no one's going to be talking about week 4 anymore. Everyone's going to be talking about what's ahead, and the Colts have a golden opportunity to face a Raiders team that, while they do have Ashton Jeanty, they do have Brock Bowers, Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly is every defense's golden ticket. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I think the Colts have a great opportunity to bounce back with a win. So, until then, everybody, enjoy your week. We will be right back here on Thursday to talk more Colts football with all of you. Until then, take care.